Hi, I'm Chris Searles, and I'm going to share with you about how I tried to bring rain to Austin, and I think succeeded on March 8th, just a couple of days ago. This is Sunday. In this video, part 1 of 2, you'll get the background on how this came together, talk quickly about the water budget and what the outcomes were, and then I'll also share the strategy on how I see trees and forests and this plan. Okay, so there are 3 types of rainmaking with trees so far that I've been working with. The first is when you do the strategic watering and rain is generated spontaneously. There's video of this from July 10th, 2022 on the YouTube channel, and video of this from just a few weeks ago, February 16th, is more or less that activity. There's also getting low probability rain to fall. So that's like a 20% forecast or a cloudy forecast, a 45% forecast. And then there's attracting large rain systems and helping them to fall. This particular event is kind of a combination. There was rain around us and it pulled in from an unusual direction and fell outside of what the forecast said. Also, a couple of conditions on this particular video. This is the first time I've ever tried to water in early spring and make these things happen, so I don't fully understand what I'm doing anyway, but especially in these conditions. And then the trees themselves are low on leaves, so we concentrated on both conifers and deciduous trees, primarily live oaks and ash juniper. So the water budget on this is impressive. I used about 3,140 gallons, 520 gallons at a time, over 6 watering sessions. And this is only about, the average American shower is 17.2 gallons. So 3,140 gallons is only 182, or let's just say 180 showers. This could be like a neighborhood all taking one day off from showering. It's also equivalent to 1/8 of the average American swimming pool, the amount of water I used. In other words, the average American swimming pool has about 25,000 gallons of water in it, and I used about 1/8 of that amount to generate these effects by watering big trees, strategic watering. And then from all that, I would claim that we got temperatizing effects, meaning we dampened down the extreme weather that was projected. Hail was actually projected on Thursday, before the rain that was initially projected on Friday, as well as thunderstorms. None of that came through. We got gentle rain on Thursday and abundant or generous rain on Friday, and just perfect for the ecosystem to move us out of severe drought, set us up for a beautiful weekend. I claim attachment to this idea of temperatizing the weather, dampening down the extremes, getting it back into a more balanced climate, because I've seen this effect multiple times at large scale, believe it or not, when I'm doing these specific strategic waterings. Northern California, Southern Texas twice, and Central Texas as well. Love to talk to anybody about that, and it's in some of the videos. It'll be in future videos. And then last but not least, we actually did get the rainfall on Friday. For 3,140 gallons, we probably helped bring in millions to billions of gallons of water. We got 3/4 of an inch of rain in the Dripping Springs area. On a per acre basis, that's about 20,000 gallons of water per acre, over tens of thousands of acres out here. And then Austin did well as also. The National Weather Service projected no more than 1/4 of an inch for the whole week or weekend or whatever. And Austin got more like 3/10 of an inch, even 1/2 an inch out near Westlake Hills, that type of area, Sunset Valley. So where the trees are thicker, they're getting better rain. Note to everyone watching. All right, so trying this. This is how I see a tree. The concept is like a moisture centrifuge. So you think of the tree in the center, and when you water it, it creates moisture cycling in this sort of circular field around it. And what I'm doing is going to various trees and trying to create a bigger moisture centrifuge. And so when I get these trees doing their moisture field making, there's motion in that. They are vascular creatures like us. They are not literally in this direction, it's in all directions as they spin up and cycle out the moisture they carry. And this is, as my friend Desmond says, this is like interacting with other vegetation, creating concentric circles, and the whole process creates this sort of suction to the larger ecosystem. As this first tree becomes rehydrated, it gets more powerful at sharing its moisture with the vegetation around it, and so on and so forth. And as I build this up, the system will cycle moisture amongst itself to refresh itself and eventually create a larger cycle of moisture circulation across the landscape. And what I'm trying to do is work with passive winds flow, which are the natural or the dominant winds flow, I should say, to move the moisture that's coming from, usually in Texas, where we are, the south and the east, through our vessel, and then powering it up to send it further up the continuation of vegetation. All right, so that's the main idea. The tree itself is, to me, this kind of creature. I kind of think of this Asian medicine concept of the dantian and the seed, your belly button where your umbilical cord is. I want to put the water, the H2O, as close to that seed as I can, that center of its being, and onto the root ball as I can. So I'm watering next to the trunk, because when I can get the water onto the root ball and into the sort of seed, as I call it, then it goes up the heartwood. As it goes in the heartwood, then it creates that moisture field that we're talking about. And this movement of moisture from the seed is both vertical up into the tree, as you see here, but also then if you take this idea and think of the tree itself as a split, from the top, the moisture is going to move out from the center in this way as well. And so that's this centrifugal kind of movement as well, these circular motions where moisture is just most efficiently, and energy is most efficiently conveyed through circularity. So this is just watering here to the right part of the anatomy. This is watering and creating circulation inside the tree and vascular pumping, which then has a systemic effect when it links up with the other trees around. So because of this, again, this moisture field. So you think of the tree now from the top. This is just the canopy here. This is the tree. And this moisture field will come out and spin around and around and around, sort of in this way. Now, I don't know if there's science on this, but I've observed this. Many, many, many people have observed this. And this is how trees and vegetation in general sort of seem to release moisture into the air and circulate it around and around. So back to our big picture then. We've got all of these concentric circles that we're trying to link up so they can create that centrifugal force. And in the case of this study, or this experiment to try and bring rain on Friday, March 8th, I got a surprise. The rain actually came in, the dominant winds were going this way. And so we were able to attract, you'll see that in the second part. We were able to attract rain against the forecast, outside of what was projected, with the same technique, I believe, because I've seen this now about 75 times, and get the rain over the acreage as we needed here in severe drought. All right, so lastly, let me just try and make an analogy point. These trees, it's like the inside of a clock face or a watch face. You've got little wheels, concentric wheels, and the vegetation in between that can connect them. And again, as they start spinning, we're going to get a force that will create low pressure and attract moisture from far away. It can also spontaneously generate rain. And then it empowers the forests to send the moisture along the vegetation line according to the dominant winds. In the case of this event on March 8th, the plan was to bring in moisture from the south and the east to our sites and send it upwind towards Austin. What actually happened, same technique but different attraction, is that the moisture came from here. It was coming over from the west. And so this didn't happen so much, a little bit, but all of our areas here got good rain, and then onward up the vegetation line to really, really help Texas move out of drought. So we're going to keep doing this work. Okay, and that's the best I can do right now, showing you what that is. I could really use help making videos, somebody out there. That's a lot of stuff just to pull the project off. And then to compress it and make a video. Anyway, so the main elements here for strategic watering are in all of that, in the plan and how I see a tree. And what we're talking about are how we use resources, which in this case is the inventory of big trees, how we use location, which is favoring passive winds or the dominant winds in a system and locating at the bottom of a long line of contiguous vegetation, how we use techniques. In the video that's an introduction to rainmaking with trees, I said this is essentially just big trees and location. So now I'm adding two more to that. Big trees, location, again, meaning techniques. How do you water the trees? You're mostly putting it as close to the trunk as you possibly can and on the tree itself. And then the timing. This is a new element. You want to time well. It's talked about in the video, but I really want to emphasize this. You want to time well with moisture in the sky, moisture in the ground. You're building that up, bringing those two elements together to create this reaction. And lastly, the actual infrastructure has to be there. That's why I'm making these videos. Human beings need to figure out that even though for the first however many thousands of years of our existence, we have needed to cut trees to survive and keep ourselves safe, now the opposite is true. We shouldn't cut any more trees. We need to grow trees to keep ourselves safe and restore wildlife and biodiversity and ecosystem integrity. Anyway, with all that said, part 2 will tell you what happened in brief. And thank you for watching this video. There'll be more to come. Send your questions.